I'm Dick Nolan. I hold the Phil Condit Chair and also have the pleasure at this point of chairing the AIMS program. In addition, I co-chair the Seattle Innovation Symposium. And one of the things that is very, very clear to us is that a company such as Boeing that has been around for 90 years and celebrating that anniversary is and has been an innovator. And what we've seen today, or over the last 3 weeks, we have been exploring how the company continues to innovate into the 21st century. As you know, we have our guest, Scott Carson, the president and CEO of the commercial airplane business company. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our dean, Jim Giambavo, and Jim is going to talk a bit about our 44 years with AIMS and the innovation, some of the innovations that have come out of that. Jim?
Well, thanks, Dick. You know, it's one thing for a company to innovate and be successful and get attention and then disappear. It's another thing for a company to innovate year after year after year, and that's what Boeing's done over such a long history. Well, just like great companies like Boeing, business schools also have to reinvent themselves periodically. And I think this commitment to change and sustained innovation is one of the hallmarks of our 45-year partnership with Boeing in the AIMS program. When the program started in 1962, the new aircraft was the Boeing 707, and that was transforming aviation. And since then, of course, Boeing's launched generation after generation of new jetliners, each representing a giant leap forward in terms of performance and efficiency from the aircraft that came before. And in that same period, the materials, processes, and managerial challenges of producing commercial aircraft, military aircraft, and other aerospace products have changed dramatically. Well, without a unique partnership between Boeing and the business school and our shared commitment to keep innovating, to keep the program relevant, AIMS wouldn't have thrived for more than 4 decades. To my knowledge, this is the longest running industry partnership of its kind in the nation. We're very proud of that distinction, and we're determined to keep innovating, to keep the program vital, to serve the needs of Boeing for decades to come. Well, today we're honored to have the co-founder of AIMS with us, Professor Emeritus Bill Newell. Bill, would you please stand and be recognized? Well, now I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker, Scott Carson. As we all know, Scott was recently appointed president and CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. But what you may not know is Scott was in the very first EMBA class that Kazi launched, and he graduated in 1983. Well, Scott's a 33-year veteran of Boeing. He joined the company in 1973 after graduating from Washington State, quickly moved through the ranks of the company and had a wide variety of leadership positions. Prior to his current position, he was vice president of sales of commercial airplanes. Before that, he led Connection by Boeing, bringing high-speed in-flight internet service to airplanes and airlines, I should say, in Europe and Asia. And before Connection, he served as executive vice president and chief financial officer of Boeing Commercial Airplanes, to name just a few of his executive positions. Scott's very active in the community, although I have no idea how he finds time for this given his very rigorous travel schedule. But he's the executive focal for Boeing at Washington State. He's also on the board of Washington State University Foundation. He's the chair of the WSU College of Business and Economics National Board of Advisors, and he's on the College of Engineering and Architecture Advisory Board. We're also proud to say that Scott is a member of our Executive MBA Advisory Board here at the Business School. In January of 2004, Scott had the exceptional honor of being named a Fellow of the Royal Aeronautical Society. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm welcome for Scott Carson.
Thanks, Jim. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today. One of my great passions in life is education and continuing education, and in your case, continuous learning throughout your careers. I think it sets you apart from your peers and sets a wonderful example for all of those that you come in contact with at Boeing. These addresses are always challenging because you're often given a topic or title folks want you to speak about, and today it was about innovation. And so I'm going to tell you about innovation, tell you my views on innovation, but perhaps from a slightly different perspective, not so much in the hardware monuments that we all create in our daily lives, but in the importance of a sound strategy and then an environment that we can create that makes innovation possible. Because I think absent the environment, absent a view of the importance of innovation and what we do and what we create, innovation can't take place no matter how many smart people you have. So that's the journey I'm going to walk you down. I'm going to do that first by repeating some history that many of you in this room know, but perhaps from a slightly different perspective, because at the time this tale begins, I was CFO, and then later I was the CEO or president at Connection. And then I had the opportunity to come back and finish the last part of this story as the sales leader. And really, that was the easiest job I've probably ever had, largely because of the innovation that many of you in this room were responsible for during a period when many had written the Boeing Company off. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about something that many of you have heard, but again, I'll share my views of it opposed to just words on a piece of paper, and that is the environment. And I'll do that by talking a little about what we call the working together principles and practices, more recently referred to as the management attributes by our new CEO, Jim McNerney. But they're all the same thing, and they're all really critical to what we do and how we being all of us that are leaders, including all of you, do in creating the environment that allows the young talent around us to feel free to innovate. And I think that's really what this is about. Do you feel free to innovate? Or is there this environment that allows you to experiment with and find solutions to problems that change the world? So if that's all right, that's the journey we'll take. So let me take you back to, and the story really begins in the mid-90s, at a time when we felt pretty good about what we were doing as an innovative organization. We had just launched the 777, the 737 next generation, an airplane viewed by many as the current rendition of an old product, and that's absolutely not true. It was a very new and very different product. We're coming to the marketplace. And we had convinced ourselves, and many of you have heard this, that we had a God-given right to 60% of the market. And that view tended to shape our behavior in the marketplace. And we worked very hard at selling product to reach that vision, 60% of the market. And we did it without a lot of thought about the implications for those people that had to stand behind us and manufacture the product. And so many of you recall that in the summer of 97 through the summer of 98, we tripped. And in the process of tripping, we almost lost the company. We stopped our production lines, I think, 3 different times. We disappointed customers widely around the world to the point that they said, we've lost faith in you. And oh, by the way, in the time when we were stumbling, our competitor, who had been a small startup in Europe and who we had discounted for many years, suddenly found themselves in a position to make us look like we were no longer the innovators. We were no longer that creative organization that had created the 707, the 727, the 37, the 47, the 57, the 67, and the 777. And they were the ones that were viewed as creating wonderful new opportunities and products for the aerospace industry. We worked our way through that, and we worked our way through it largely by proving once again we could be an innovative organization in terms of how we manufactured. We used the crisis of the late 90s to reinvent ourselves, and we did it in a couple of ways that were fairly exciting to be part of. And what may have been missed by many is, in my view, the product most responsible for that manufacturing reinvention was the 717 in Long Beach. So how can that be? It wasn't even part of our family. Well, they felt a crisis earlier than we did here in Seattle in terms of the threats we felt after September 2001. The crisis they felt was the customer base wasn't there, and we thought it was a matter of time. But to make ourselves credible for a long enough period of time, they had to prove you could build an airplane one at a time. And so they took what was, in many respects, the most dismal factory in the Boeing family and recreated it into a very dynamic place, a moving production line where the engineers, heaven forbid, actually sat on the shop floor with the product, and the mechanics could actually talk to the engineers and find out what they were doing on the design side that was making the airplane really hard to build. And it was an exciting environment to be part of. And in fact, they built that airplane one at a time on a moving production line, the first one we had, and demonstrated that that technology could be moved to a higher rate production environment like the one we had here in Seattle. And so in the early part of this decade, Carolyn Corvey and a group of people in Renton, many of you sitting here in this room, began the process of reinventing what we affectionately called the slant position build in Renton into a moving line. Any of you ever see the slant positions? A bunch of you, right? And that became really critical in the time immediately after September 11th, when we slashed our production rates literally in half and resolved that we would do that and build airplanes profitably. And so Renton became the hallmark of what it meant, and we called it the move to the lake. Remember the move to the lake? And the engineers now sit where they can see the production line, and you can see when the line stops, and it kind of gets everyone's attention. But great innovation in how airplanes were manufactured. But we believe that's only applicable and appropriate in the 737 line. Everett was way too complex to ever put a moving line in. Well, we're now well along the journey on the 777, putting that same moving line in. And so we redefined our entire production system in a time that was, in my view, the most stressed period of our corporate existence. And that production strategy is now a critical part to what we are doing as we build at the highest rates we've ever built at. During this same period, though, people started talking about Boeing will never reinvest. You may remember that. Boeing will never reinvest in commercial airplanes. We may be getting out. And I heard that through 2001 and 2 when I was over at Connection. Boeing is obviously getting out of the new airplane business. The Sonic Cruiser is one of those interesting pipe dreams, but we're never going to invest in a new airplane. It's too expensive. We can make a lot of money on the defense side. But a lot of people with a very special feel for this industry and our customers very quietly on the side began a process of innovation. And the Sonic Cruiser, while not built, was an important part of that innovation cycle because we began exploring new ways to build airplanes. And we did that with a team that understood where we were going and what we thought was possible. And so over a period of about 5 years, we found ourselves now suddenly ready for the reemergence of the industry in late 2004 and through 2005. Yeah, we sold 1,000 airplanes last year, but it wasn't because those of us in sales were terribly good. We had teams behind us that had very innovatively created a production system that could build airplanes with alarming quality in them and with alarming frequency, and they were products our customers wanted. That took the best in technology and deployed that technology in a way that created great new value in an industry that needed to find it, an industry that has never made its cost of capital in its history. And so this became really critical to what we delivered to the marketplace. The third innovation, and I think it was important in many regards, but is not as visible and is not as sexy as the products we build or the factories we run, was a re-engagement with our customers. A re-engagement that caused us to listen. And it's amazing what you can learn when you pause and actually listen to what's on someone else's mind. Now, I was a student here once, and I know how hard it is to listen to professors, but when you do, Kazi even taught me things, and this was a miracle. But it's important with a customer that you not sell product to them, but listen to what they need and where they're going in the future. And so one of the reasons the 787 sells so well today is what we heard the customers say is we need a product that is 30% less costly to maintain, that is 20% more available to us when we operate it, that burns less fuel, that carries people in a different environment than we've ever done before, where the pressure altitude is less, the humidity is higher, where the ambient conditions are less stressful on very long flights. And oh, by the way, we want to go where we want to go, when we want to go, and so our point-to-point model worked. And then we got a little bit lucky. Whoever anticipated fuel prices at $60 or $70 a barrel and having the most efficient product in the world just kind of worked out. But we listen to the customer, and listening becomes a really important part. So those are the three legs to the strategy that we have been engaged in building over the last decade. A lean and efficient production system, the most innovative products that deliver the highest value to our customers, and contact with our customers that allows us to understand and deliver to them the things they need to be successful. Now, the fourth element, and it's what you all have been involved in here at Ames, is a team that is motivated to create value. A team that is motivated to create value. And we can do that through continuous education, and that's a big part of it. But it is not the only part. The other part is the environment that we create in our office spaces, in our workspaces, in the factory environments. And that's where, to me, the working together principles and practices, which are merely a surrogate for the total environment, where the management values that Jim aspires to are merely a surrogate for the environment that we create that allows us to feel fulfilled and allows us to create an environment where those that work for us want to create, want to invent, want to innovate, want to change the world, and feel empowered to do so. And so as you leave here, leave this seminar and go back, I would say that is the part that you want to pay attention to. The days when we create. I mean, we're all ties now, right? Well, ties are skirts. We don't do the actual creation anymore. We create the environment where others can create, where we stimulate the young minds coming out of the university system, where we make people want to be at work every day doing things that are beyond their capability individually, but collectively become the miracles that create the new products and the new services of the next generation. So I'd like to take just a few minutes and talk about the working together principles and practices and how and why I feel they are important in creating that environment, if that's okay with you. Okay? So now I have to refer to my notes so I don't forget. There are 10. There are 10 principles and practices, and they all relate. None of them is more important than the other, but all are an important part of creating this value. And I would challenge you to do this. You've all seen the new management principles, right? 6 of them. I would say take these 10 and map them to those 6, and you'll find they're all the same thing, just expressed differently. And then I would ask that you take those 16 items and sit down quietly sometime, either by yourself or with someone you trust, and explore those. Explore what they mean to you in a way that allows you to internalize first these 16 items, and then second, to exploit them in the organizations that you're part of. And I think if you do that, you're going to find there's a magic there that you unleash that is unlike any power you've ever seen in an organization before. So let me just first run down quickly the 10. It starts with people. That would be you and everyone that you touch on a daily basis. Everyone's included, and this inclusion is such a powerful part of what we do. And the other side of that coin, the ability to exclude elements of your organization is the most damaging thing that you can do as part of any enterprise that you want to cause to innovate. Have a compelling vision, and I talked a little about the strategy, and that's really at the heart of that. Once you have that compelling vision, have clear goals of where you want to go. Because without goals, without something to measure yourself against, where you can reset them to continue to stretch yourself, one, you'll never know where you're going, and two, you'll never know if you're on the right path to get there. Have a single plan, and we've talked a lot about that at Boeing, but I think having a plan, and then, by the way, having the courage to change that plan as circumstances change, and then share why, is an important part of what we do. Don't be afraid of facts and data. Use the facts and data as a friend that allows you to help an organization move to a new place. Now, there's two that go together, and some of these are really personal if you ever lived through a crisis. One is propose a plan and find a way attitude, and the most important thing is finding a way, because there's always a path. And I'm a chronic optimist. Being a cougar, you of course could understand that. But finding a way forward, finding the opportunity in any situation that presents itself is powerful for your organization and for you individually. Respect, listen, help, and appreciate each other, and we'll talk some more about that one. Emotional resilience. You know, some days are just the pits. And so I believe strongly in having an organization that will succeed is having an organization that can hold itself up on down times, and every one of us have had those. So we'll talk a little more about that. And then finally, the one that I've always enjoyed the most is have a little fun on this journey, because when it's over, they bury you. So this is as good as it gets. So now let's go back and talk a little more about each one of those. I really believe that the power of the organization is in the people that make it up. The power of the team is far greater than the power of any one of us. And if you ever work for someone that believes they're the most important person in the room, I'll guarantee you they're not. The most important person in the room is everyone that's there. And finding a way to exploit that potential, to build into everyone there a strong will to succeed, and better yet, a refusal to fail, is a powerful motivator for any team. Now, I said everyone in the room several times, and I think all organizations, and big or small, have a tendency from time to time to want to become exclusive or exclusionary. And the thing that you miss when you start excluding the value of any one person on any team is a different point of view. And often, the integration of that different point of view with strong views held by others creates a whole different path, and perhaps it's the path to success. So I don't think there's any such thing as a bad idea. The important thing is to take the nuggets from each idea and integrate that into some path forward that allows everyone to find a way to grow. And that is what creates, in my view, the excitement and the energy that cause people to imagine a different tomorrow. And it's that imagining a different tomorrow that causes us to innovate. People will often say, well, isn't it too bad that Connection failed? And I would tell you, Connection didn't fail. The market didn't materialize the way we thought it would. But the 600 people on Connection imagined a different tomorrow. And it opened up paths for us that we'll feel in this company for years to come. Wireless IFE on the 787. It began with the work done by the team at Connection. We did something really interesting at Connection, and I think it will bear fruit. And this happened very early on. I've been part of things that have failed in the past, and I've been part of things that have been successful. And we asked in the very beginning, let's capture the history of the decision-making process on this team, so that when a postmortem is done, good, bad, or ugly, we will have a chronicle of how and why decisions were made. And that became a great, great learning experience for us as a team. And it helped us understand, even while we were living this, how to make better decisions and how to open up our thoughts to different ideas. We used to have a model that we called connecting the dots. And we would splatter the walls with events and circumstances that affected us on a daily basis. And you could begin to draw connections between if this, then that, we should do this to counter when we were talking about a competitive environment. If we failed at something, we could find causes and ways to create and innovate because we included everyone's thought in the process. And to me, that was a really, really powerful lesson. And it's a lesson that we're now employing across the bigger Boeing commercial unit. But I think everywhere people from Connection have gone, they carry with them this notion that somehow the synergy of thought allowed us to see futures that were different, and that's a powerful tool. So I think as you go back as leaders, I'd encourage you to experiment with that. Don't dispatch people with ideas. Explore how that idea and this idea might come together to create a new idea. While this has very little to do with you learning about business principles to support what you're doing in manufacturing, I think it has a lot to do with how you integrate what you've learned here with what you've done throughout your careers to create an environment that allows us to not only innovate today and tomorrow, but to build an organization that continues to create innovation through the next 50 or 100 years. To make it an organization where people want to come to work because it is exciting, not just for the products they build for today, but for the opportunities that we create for people to invent things that haven't yet been thought about, to apply old technologies to new problems, and to find satisfaction in themselves. And I think if we do that, your experience here at Ames will have justified fully the 40 years that we've been involved with this program. So that would be the challenge I leave with you. And I would like to congratulate you all for having successfully accomplished this and for your ongoing commitment to education and learning. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jim.